everybody in the world that we get to deal with has what's called an enterprise agreement from Microsoft. It's very common. A lot of people have them. Typically, if you're about a 200 or more user type customer, you're going to have an enterprise agreement, which is sort of a 3-year term with Microsoft where you buy your licensing. Well, more recently, as they announced their new platform called Cloud Solution Provider, they gave us an opportunity as a services company to really be the guys out there evangelizing what the products are that Microsoft's bringing to market, and better, how to take advantage of them. So what we do is a thing called the CIE, Customer Immersion Experience. And just like it sounds with the I in the middle, it's really an experience where we bring in computers for your teams and help immerse your people inside of what Microsoft has to offer and get them thinking about new ways to process different types of work they do, create new workflows in the business, better communicate, things like that. So you get a chance to really learn what makes sense in your business versus what may or may not, and you can decide from there on what licensing to buy. But one of the big things about CSP, and probably the most exciting part, is that it's truly a pay-as-you-go option. And what we mean by that is, at this point, licensing has become Microsoft Office 365, Microsoft Azure, and really Microsoft Dynamics. And different employees use different components of that. In some cases, they're using the full-blown versions of security and Skype and Office for that matter. In other cases, you have kiosk workers who are just using an email account and may not even have a computer. The flip of that is they also are looking at, people are starting to ask about Azure and how do I better take advantage of it. And what they were getting in EA was sort of these, commits, if you will, where you had to spend a certain amount or put a certain amount into your enterprise agreement via this commit model. I don't know how to spell commit right there, we'll just pretend we did. Anyway, commit model, and ultimately they were uncertain if they wanted to use Azure. So Microsoft's really pushing us as service providers and really the customer to go into this pay only for what you use model, whether it's pay as you go for Azure or what's called an RI, reserved instance. And again, if Azure doesn't work for you, in the CSP model, Cloud Solution Provider, you can turn it off at any given time. So as we walk through with customers, it's exciting to talk about sort of the journey that we go through, which is first get into what's called a customer immersion experience. And it's something that we do no cost to our customers, something that we ultimately want to get our customers involved in so we can understand what's going to work in their business. So CIE becomes the first step. Second step is understanding what you need in pay-as-you-go from Office 365, and maybe even Dynamics. What licensing, because there's a lot of them. I think there's over 900 SKUs these days. And then of course leveraging Azure, whether you pay for it up front in what's called a reserved instance, which is oftentimes less expensive, or just pay as you go in Azure. The other thing that came up recently was SQL. That's a big topic for a lot of companies, and how do I deal with Windows Server and ultimately SQL Server, or the platform as a service that sits in Azure. Now, under what's called hybrid benefit, you can actually go out there and take advantage of SQL Azure or SQL within Azure, and ultimately if you decide not to leverage the license that you purchase in Azure, you can relicense it on your on-premise server. So instead of having multiple licenses for different, we'll call it operating systems that sit on some platform, you can use one license in a hybrid benefit. And knowing that SQL can get quite expensive, this is a great way to do it through Azure. So if you're interested in learning about Cloud Solution Provider, it's something that you can bolt onto your EA or something you could do separate from your EA, but really they're two separate products and you can have sort of a mix and match of both if that makes sense for your organization. So I hope that's helpful for you guys today. Look us up, look up CSP with us, and we're happy to help you guys out.